Hello, good evening. I think it's you in Nazarena, right? Yes, I see your name. How are you,
Yes,
Nazarena? Is everything okay?
yes, teacher. Good morning. Good evening.
Good evening. Great. It's great to know that everything is fine, Nazarena. So let's continue with our practice. I don't know if you remember about this, Nazarena. I believe you were in the last conversation and we were listening to this lecture, right? It was about economics and about micro enterprises. What do you remember
Yeah.
about this one, Nazarena? Do you remember anything about this lecture?
Um. Yes. Was about the small and small business that borrow or lend money. Yeah, lend money. They are talking about the interest that may in 17th, I think, the banks have a better idea for the small business to lend money with low rates.
Good with low interest rates. Good, very good. Now, I have one question here. Is it that the business, or actually instead of business, who is lending money and who is borrowing money? What do you say?
Uh, Banks borrow money? No, sorry. Banks lend money and entrepreneurs borrow money.
Okay, good. Yes, correct. Right. In this case, it is going to be like that. Good. And remember, we're talking about small scale entrepreneurs, right? And they borrow money because they need capital to start a business, to start something. And at the beginning, they said that sometimes they borrow money from money lenders, right? But money lenders have very high interest rates. And that's why it's not a good idea, right? They are going to be in this cycle of debt. It means they are always going to need to pay money, right? So a solution is not every bank, right? Because also banks have very high interest rates sometimes. Some banks require you to give them something as collateral. For example, if you have a house, if you have a car, right, you need to give that in a certain way and you need to work in a legal way to say, if I don't pay you back, then you can keep my property, right? And that's bad. That's something that doesn't work with everybody. That's why if you remember, this bank over here, the Grameen, sorry, bank, that it's an initiative, is proposing lending small amounts of money with very reasonable interest rates. All right, so that's the idea that we have, right? So I don't know if you have any other questions or comments before continuing from that part, Nazarena.
No, teacher. So the name of the bank is Greenman.
It is this one, huh? It's Grameen Bank.
Grameen. Ah, okay. Okay.
Exactly. And it's just the name of this specific bank because this is proposing an initiative. All right. So
Okay.
let's continue from that part, please. Serena, I'm going to show you actually. It is over here. This is the last idea. So let's pay attention, please, to the ideas that are going to come next. Let's listen, please.
The world and has been responsible for making idea has now spread throughout much interest rates without the
Okay, from this
necessity of
specific.
providing collateral. The idea has now spread throughout much of the world and has been responsible for making significant inroads into both rural and urban poverty in developing countries. The founder of the Grameen Bank, an economics professor named Mohammed Yunus, understood that because of the risk and expense involved, traditional banks would not lend money to poor people who have no property to use as collateral. But he discovered that poor borrowers would maintain a good loan repayment rate if interest rates were realistically set and if certain other conditions were applied.
Okay, so that is the next part. I am going to play it once again. And everything that he's saying now is related to the previous bank that we mentioned, right? The Grameen Bank, that it's an initiative from someone. Here you have the name of the founder. And he had an idea, and he's actually explaining why this is working. So let's pay attention to it one more time, please, Nazarena, and you're going to try to explain what is this part about. Okay, so here we go. This is the second time.
The idea has now spread throughout much of the world and has been responsible for making significant inroads into both rural and urban poverty in developing countries. The founder of the Grameen Bank, an economics professor named Mohammed Yunus, understood that because of the risk and expense involved, traditional banks would not lend money to poor people who have no property to use as collateral. But he discovered that poor borrowers would maintain a good loan repayment rate if interest rates were realistically set and if certain other conditions were applied.
All right, so what can you tell me about this part, Nazarena?
Okay, teacher. Okay, in this part say that the Grameen Bank don't doesn't want to spread for all people to lend money because some people doesn't have the money to do it. Like the poor people is a risk for them and is not responsible make that all people can access to these leads. So in the last part they say that maybe poor people can have some or uh, kind of leads or that they can apply, but I didn't remember too much.
Okay, don't worry, it's good. You have good information there, but something is a little bit different that it's going to change the idea, all right, in a different way. So, for example, this is my question, Nazarena. Who is actually saying that? Who says that it's a risk to lend money to the poor? Is it Grameen Bank or is it the traditional banks? What do you
um,
say?
Mohammed.
Good, Mohammed, and he is the founder of what bank? Is he the founder of a traditional bank or the founder of Grameen Bank?
Traditional.
Actually, it's going to be Grameen. All right.
Mm.
He is the founder of Grameen Bank. Grameen Bank is a different bank. It's not a traditional bank. And he is explaining, Mohammed is explaining that traditional banks don't lend money to the poor because the
Mm.
poor don't have properties. The poor don't have houses. They don't have cars. So they are not going to lend you money because you don't have a collateral, right? You don't have something that we can take from you if we don't pay us back, right? That's what
Mhm.
Mohammed is saying. So that's what traditional banks do. But Mohammed and the Grameen
Mm.
Bank, that is his foundation, that is his bank, he says that we lend money to the poor. All right, because it is possible to lend money without collateral. Okay, it means without having a house, without having a car. It's possible to lend money to the poor if we have realistic sets, or if we set realistically, it says, the interest rates, and if we give other conditions. All right, so let's take a look at that one more time. I'm going to play it actually, we're going to read this together. All right, it says from this part. Mm, okay, from this part. The founder of, let's read from that part, please, Nazarena. The
Okay,
founder,
the founder of the Grameen Bank,
good. Continue, please.
an economics professor named Mohammed Yunus, understood that because of the risk and expense involved, traditional banks would not lend money who have no property to use as collateral but
Good. This part is important, right? So traditional banks would not lend money to poor people who have no property to use as collateral. Okay, that's traditional banks. That's not Mohammed. That's not Grameen Bank. All right, that's traditional banks. But let's continue, please, from this part.
he discovered that that poor borrowers would maintain a good loan repayment.
good repayment rate. If now this is the condition, Nazarena.
Um, repayment rate if interest rates were realistically set.
And one more thing, this one also, please.
And if certain other conditions were applied this.
Okay, yes, until applied, right? Until applied. So
Mm,
that's the idea. It means that Mohammed, the founder of Grameen Bank, knows that other banks, traditional banks, and that happens everywhere, okay, in Bolivia, any part in the world,
mhm,
right? If you don't have a house, if you don't have a car, if you don't have property, you cannot borrow money, right? Because you don't have something to back you up. It means if you don't pay the money, you can escape, right? And you escape with the money. That's easy. And banks don't want to risk, right? So that's why sometimes banks don't work with people who have no property, who have no resources to back it up. But Grameen Bank, right, and many other banks, and here in Bolivia, I think you have some cooperatives, right, cooperativas. So they work with these different alternatives, right? They are not going to ask you to have a house or a car or property to back you up. They are going to ask you for other conditions. They are going to give you first uh, good interest rates that are realistically set. It means in good periods of time. And they are also going to ask you for other conditions. And that's what we're going to learn in this next part. Okay, we're going to play one more part, but I want to know if you have any questions before going to the next part, Nazarena.
um, maybe what is loan repayment?
Loan is the money that you borrowed and it's the money that you have to return. Okay, that's the loan. And repayment means
Okay.
that you have to return the money, right? So good loan repayment, it means how you're going to be repaying the money that you borrow from the bank. All right. So the loan again is the money that the bank gives you and the money that you receive, but it's also the money that you have to repay with some interests after a certain time. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Good. So let's
Okay.
actually do something in Nazarena. How can you explain this part one more time with this explanation? How can you explain it one more time? Everything in this second part.
Okay. Um, basically, that Mohammed um discover uh, or say that like the typical the typically banks doesn't borrow money to poor people because they doesn't have properties or cars or anything, so they can borrow money, but late money, sorry. But he discovered that other kind um to borrow to poor people if they have a good loan repayment rate, and if the interest rates were realistic, and like,
Exactly.
yeah. Hmm.
And other conditions that they didn't mention, right? Good, it's
Yeah,
great. Just be careful with two things. Remember, if you say they and you say the people, you're not going to say doesn't, right? You have to say don't, right?
don't,
They
yeah.
don't have properties. They people don't lend or don't borrow, right? And also remember
Mhm.
that the bank lends money and the people borrow money. right? The bank lends the money and the people borrow the money from the bank. All right, just those two things, Nazarena.
Mhm.
Good. Now, this is very short. I know we are over time in Nazarena. Perhaps the next person is going to be here soon. But let's listen to this next part very, all right, superficially, and you're going to tell me what you understood. Okay, I'm going to play it 2 times. Just this short part, please, Nazarena, to finish today.
Okay.
To monitor the loans and guarantee repayment. The peer group typically consists, and if certain other conditions were
Okay, from this part, these are the conditions. This is one of the conditions.
applied. These conditions included the use of peer group pressure to monitor the loans and guarantee repayment. The peer group typically consists of 5 borrowers linked together through the life of a loan. The group undergoes a training session and attends weekly meetings with a bank official. The members monitor how the money is used and scrutinize the business plan of their peers.
Okay, that's the part. I know there's a lot of complex information, vocabulary there. I'm going to play it one more time, but this is one of the conditions that the borrower needs to do if he or she wants to borrow money from this bank. Okay, so let's listen one more time, please.
If interest rates were realistically and if certain other conditions were applied. These conditions included the use of peer group pressure to monitor the loans and guarantee repayment. The peer group typically consists of 5 borrowers linked together through the life of a loan. The group undergoes a training session and attends weekly meetings with a bank official. The members monitor how the money is used and scrutinize the business plan of their peers.
Okay, so that's it. Again, here we have a lot of perhaps complex words, but what can you tell me about this part, Nazarena?
Okay. Well, the bank need a group of people of the business, like the for example, the manager, someone that can who can be a guarantee person, and like 5 followers. I think that have to be like 5 people of the organization, and must to be like a group that have a that will be trainee for a officer bank. Maybe I think that they will work together to show him about the business plan and how is the business working, maybe.
All right, thank you, Nazarena. So let's do the following. Because of the time, again, we cannot go in depth for this second part. Remember, tomorrow we have the conversation. So let's do the following, Nazarena. Join at the same time that you did join today. All right, 9:15. It was your time, right? 9:15. So join tomorrow, please, at the same time. Remember, tomorrow we have to replace Thursday's class because tomorrow is the day that we agreed. And we are going to see this one more time, and I'm going to tell you the details. All right, what you're telling me is good, but again, there are some details that are going to change that a little bit. Some words are going to make us understand that differently. For example, the word peer and the word loan one more time, but used in a different way, and pressure and scrutinize and other details that are going to make us understand that better. All right, but I don't know if you have any questions, Nazarena, before finishing today, so that we can continue tomorrow and even on Thursday. This week we have 3 conversations in a row, right? Today,
Okay.
tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow. So any questions or comments, let me know, please.
No, teacher, I don't have questions. Do you have the poll, teacher?
Yes, actually, I'm sending the poll right now.
Okay.
You should be able to see it now. There you go. So let's
Thank you
answer those
so
questions,
much.
please. You're very welcome, Nazarena. Remember, please, then, to avoid a possible, let's say, conflicts with the time, tomorrow, please join at the same time, okay? 9:15, so that you don't join in a different time.
Okay. Okay, teacher.
All right?
Thank you so
Good.
much.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Bye-bye. Good night. All right. Now I'm with you, Lucia. How are you, Lucia? How's everything going?
Good evening, Professor. Everything is good. Thank you for asking.
Great. That's great to know. So, Lucy, we're going to continue working with this lecture. I don't know if you remember about this one. It's about economics and microenterprises. Do you remember? And actually, with you, we were working with the writing, right? I remember. So, were
Yeah.
you able to work on that one? Lucia, let me know how you're doing with your essay, please.
Uh, no, Professor. I think we can work in this new material. I think it's good because I'm already submit, but yeah, and but also I'm practice with the writing. But I think it's a good idea to work on that new topics that you propose.
Okay, good, good. Let's do it then. Today we're going to work with this one, and you're going to have again some questions about other writing related topics, or if you have some questions again about those details, you can let me know, right? But remember that there are many strategies, many ways to organize your ideas in essays, many types of essays, and many ways to make it more personal or to make it more academic, right? Because sometimes it's hard to make it kind of scientific and academic and at the same time to make it personal, right? So it's always a challenge, but it's good that you are facing those challenges, Lucy, and I hope that you did great, and also I hope that you are going to keep working those elements. So let's work then with this is a lecture. You're going to listen to parts of this lecture. I'm going to play just 30-40 seconds or less, and you're going to explain what you were able to understand. This is about economics and microenterprises. All right, let's listen to it, please.
All right.
Listen to part of a lecture given in an economics course. The professor is talking about microenterprises.
An enduring problem facing small-scale entrepreneurs in developing countries has been the difficulty in obtaining capital to start and run a business. A traditional route has been to borrow money from informal moneylenders who often attach exorbitant interest rates and thus reduce the net income of the borrower.
All right, so that is the introduction. Actually, that's the very first part, and it's important to see if everything is clear to continue. What can you tell me about those first seconds, Lucia?
It's more about like i- like a guide or explaining the situation for inversions in or when you want to start a business in undeveloped countries.
All right, good, good. How do you call to that person who's starting or who has the desire or the willing of starting a small business or
Investor?
something? Good. It's an investor indirectly, but there's one name, right? There's one name that is
Yeah.
very well known, that it's with enter, right? And
Enterpriser?
close, because he wants to found an enterprise, right? In this case, a micro enterprise, small businesses, but it's going to be an entrepreneur. All right, entrepreneur. So here
Oh,
we're
okay, okay.
talking about small scale entrepreneurs. So good. And remember, instead of you were saying like inversion, something like that, it's going to be in this case like the investment, right? The investment that they are going to need to, well, produce or to give in order to have that, right? And the main thing that we need here is capital. So what is the problem? Actually, here they are stating a problem. I don't know if you were able to get the problem, Lucia. What happens when the entrepreneur needs the money? What is the first thing that he is going to do?
Teacher, I don't know if that part we can repeat.
Yes, of course. Yes, there's actually a lot of interesting words here, all right? This lecture is kind of complex because you're going to see there are many, many interesting words related to economics. So let's listen one more time. Let's remember this is about economics, microenterprises, and we're going to listen in detail to what is the problem for those people, okay, for small scale entrepreneurs.
Oh, all right.
Economics course. The professor is talking about microenterprises.
An enduring problem facing small-scale entrepreneurs in developing countries has been the difficulty in obtaining capital to start and run a business. A traditional route has been to borrow money from informal moneylenders who often attach exorbitant interest rates and thus reduce the net income of the borrower.
All right, so what can you tell me now? Who are they talking about? What is the difficulty that they found about it? What is the traditional route or way to solve that problem? And what is the negative consequence if you opt for that route? So what do you say?
Yeah, I understand better. Is that the situation is about the entrepreneurs in developing countries, and says that the challenge or the difficulty here is to find the loans for that investment. So normally, like the directly way is to ask some capital for the loans. But yeah, here explain another like strategies or situations. It depends what's going next.
Good, great. Up to that part, I think it's perfect. Now, only the last part. For example, if I ask you, what's actually the problem when these entrepreneurs need the capital, right? They need to borrow money. Were you able to listen? Who are they asking for that money, Lucia? Who in terms of a person or who in terms of an entity or institution? Who is lending money to these entrepreneurs?
I don't know, teacher, if it's the state per se. I'm not sure about that.
All right. In this case, actually, it's not going to be why, because we have one word that helps us understand that it's informal. Okay?
Yeah.
They say in the lecture that they go to informal money lenders, right? So what are informal money lenders? Of course, they are informal, but they are going to be people or institutions informally established that give money, that lend money to the entrepreneurs. But what is the negative side about it? I don't know if you were able to listen about the interests. They say that the bad part about money lenders, informal money lenders, is the exorbitant interest rates, right? The exorbitant interest rates. And actually, another consequence of that negative thing is that they are not going to be able to have a good income, or the net income, right, is going to be reduced due to those exorbitant interest rates and due to the informality of the situation. All right, so let me show you those words.
Professor, here I have
Here
more
we have
like
the
a
net
technique.
income that is being.
Oh,
Yes, tell me.
sorry. Yes, I have a question. I don't know. I know that this is like a previous or preliminary exercise for TOEFL. I don't know if for these cases, for example, for listening, for example, I remember that, but maybe my memory is so short, and always also in Spanish, I used to write. Here is possible to write, to have like the clue words or something, because yeah, I remember that, I understand that, but to remember I forgot. And the same for me is in Spanish, for example, I prefer to take notes. It's possible
Yes,
for the TOEFL also.
yes, actually, it's advisable, and
Okay.
more than advisable, it should be mandatory if you want to get the perfect score. All right, you can have, again, as you said, right? Actually,
Okay.
even in Spanish, it happens to us. But yes, you can take notes. It's advisable, and if you want to have a high score, you should have, you should take notes. So you should
All
do it.
right.
So yes, you can do it now. I forgot to mention it because as I was working with this before, I forgot that I was not working this with you, Lucia. But yes, actually, my advice here is that you have to take notes. All right, good. So let's try to do it one more time, or let's explain one more time then, Lucia. Because of the time, perhaps I'm going to play just one short part. But how can you explain this introduction one more time with all those details?
Yeah, the context, for example, the real context of this is about the entrepreneurs from developing countries. So are that entrepreneurs comes from the informal sessions, informal sites, and yeah, there are like specific institutions that give the specific loans that they request, or that they requested. But the bad side of these loans is that are exorbitant amounts of money or interest. So it is like a difficult process to achieve, or to have like in an easy way the loans.
Great. I think we have everything there. So let's do the following, please. And I'm going to use some extra minutes, at least 2. I'm going to play the next part. It's also very short. Again, this time take notes, and we're only going to superficially see that. And tomorrow we're going to continue working in more detail. Okay, but let's listen to this second part, and you give me a short summary of this one. All right, let's listen, please, and let's take notes.
This arrangement can trap a small-scale entrepreneur in a cycle of debt from which it is impossible to escape. An initiative pioneered in Bangladesh in 1983 by the Grameen Bank is an attempt to remedy this situation. The goal of this initiative was to help poor people escape from poverty by allowing them to borrow small amounts of money at reasonable interest rates without the necessity of providing collateral.
All right, up to that part. Again, because of the time, we're just going to work these parts superficially. Tomorrow, we're going to see this in depth to analyze if we understand every word, and we continue with the next part. But now, just to close this conversation, this practice, Lucia, what can you tell me about this second part of the listening exercise?
Yeah, they explain like a real situation with an example, and talk about the Bangladesh case, that about the same case of entrepreneurs, and the cases of the loan institutions. And for that country, it was like a way to escape from the poverty. And but at the same time, or the bad side also of this situation, was that there were like collateral effects from that yeah, yeah, something like that.
Okay, thank you very much, Lucia. Now again, now I can give you a short feedback. Tomorrow we're going to see in detail what you said. Yes, it's over there, but there are words that actually are going to change the meaning of that situation in a kind of radical way. All right, because here we're going to use the word collateral in a different way. Collateral is going to be something that you give to the bank to back you up when you are asking for money. For example, your house or your car. All right, that's going to be your collateral. And actually, the Grameen Bank is going to be an alternative, an initiative that is working as a response to those informal money lenders. So to avoid people to be trapped with informal money lenders, they are working with this initiative in Bangladesh that is actually going to really help the poor by giving them different parameters and by not asking them for things that usually banks require or informal money lenders do. All right, so they are going to propose something different, but we're going to see that tomorrow in detail. All right, the idea here again is that we can start analyzing those details in a different way to try to improve and increase our listening skills. I don't know if you have any questions. Again, we're going to see the details tomorrow, but do you have any questions about the first part or the way in which we're going to be working today and tomorrow? Lucia, let me know, please.
No, Professor, everything is okay. Just collateral could be like intereses. I'm not sure about, for example, the translation too.
Yeah, in this case, more no, that the word is just interest rates, right? That's interest rates. Collateral is like something that you give in exchange in case you don't pay the money back. For example, right, if you're borrowing money from the bank, let's say $2,000, you cannot simply borrow the money, right? You have to give something over there. The collateral is, for example, your house or your car. So in case you don't pay the money back, they can do something with your property. All
Could
right?
be garantías or
In a
it's
certain
like
way here, in this case, yes, it's similar to that one. That's correct.
okay,
In this vocabulary, it is more similar to that. Mhm.
okay.
Good.
Thank
So
you,
we're going to
professor.
analyze that in detail tomorrow. Please join at the same time, Lucy. It's going to be 9:30 with you then. The poll is over there down below. Let's answer to those questions and let me know when you do it, please.
Already, professor. Just the same link, or you are going to send us a new link?
Yes, please. No, use the same in this case. Okay, use the same link to join tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good. You're welcome. Good night. See you tomorrow, Lucy.
Bye, professor. Bye, Michaela. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Good. And Michaela, good evening. How are you? Thanks for waiting and thanks for your patience. Is everything okay?
Good evening, teacher. Please, can you give me some minutes, please? I have a call for my boss right now. Sorry.
Yes, you tell me and we'll start, Michaela. I'm going to wait for you.
Please, 2 minutes.
Yes, it's perfect. Mhm.
Teacher, sorry, I come back.
Okay, Michaela, so let's try to work. Actually, perhaps now your partner is going to be here. I think she's here. So we're going to try to work the three of us just for now. All right, so that we have the time to work everybody. But tomorrow we're going to try to join then at that one. And I also use extra time, Michaela, I know with the previous partner, but now with the two of you are here and both of you work the same elements, I am going to work with both of you. All right, just in this case. And tomorrow, remember that we're going to join in at the same time that we joined today. So I believe that it was first Nazarena 9:15, then it was Lucia 9:30, then you are going to be Michaela at 9:45, and Karen, I believe you are going to be then at 10 p.m. Tomorrow. All right, let's make it in that way because I believe that not all of you registered the let's say conversation for Thursday, and in order to avoid confusion, I'm going to keep today's schedule. All right. I don't know if you have any questions or any perhaps any problems with that recommendation for tomorrow, Michaela and Karen. Good evening. You can let me know what you think about that.
Hi, teacher, good evening. No, I'm fine. I selected the 10. Yes, it's 10.
10. Good. So let's do it then. Okay. Tomorrow, everybody in your schedule. It means the ones that I gave. It means the same the schedule that today. All right. But today, let's work the two of us. All right. Actually, I'm going to work with the two of you, and it's going to be the three of us. Take notes. All right. Remember, I'm just going to remind you the lecture. This is about economics, micro enterprises. Remember, we're talking about small scale entrepreneurs that want to start something new, right? A business, and they need capital. To get capital, they need to borrow money from money lenders. But informal money lenders, they have very high, and actually, I didn't see my camera, sorry. I was doing mimics to no one. So they have very high, right? They have very high interest rates if they want to ask you for the money back. So that's negative because you're going to be trapped in a cycle of debt. All right, cycle of debt. It means you're always going to borrow money, you're going to return the money, you're going to borrow the money one more time, and you never generate good income. You're trapped in that cycle. So there's one possible alternative, right? Grameen Bank. This bank in Bangladesh is proposing to lend you the money, okay, small amounts of money with reasonable interest rates, right? Interest rates that are not high, they are not also too low, they are reasonable. And that can work with poor people because they don't ask for a collateral, right? And remember, a collateral is going to be, in this case, a house or a car that is going to be there as a guarantee that you're going to repay the money. All right, so that's what we know so far. Having that in mind, please, Karen and Michaela, let's take notes. All right, and after we play this one, I'm going to ask you some questions. So let's listen, please.
The idea has now spread throughout much of the world and has been responsible for making significant inroads into both rural and urban poverty in developing countries. The founder of the Grameen Bank, an economics professor named Mohammed Yunus, understood that because of the risk and expense involved, traditional banks would not lend money to poor people who have no property to use as collateral. But he discovered that poor borrowers would maintain a good loan repayment rate if interest rates were realistically set and if certain other conditions were applied.
Up to that part, I am going to play it once again, as I always do. Please remember once again that you can take notes. Then both of you are going to try to give me a summary. Again, you can pay attention to what your partner says, but try to do it in your own way because I'm going to give you feedback after the two of you give me a summary of this part. All right, so one more time, please. Let's listen.
Collateral. The idea has now spread throughout much of the world and has been responsible for making significant inroads into both rural and urban poverty in developing countries. The founder of the Grameen Bank, an economics professor named Mohammed Yunus, understood that because of the risk and expense involved, traditional banks would not lend money to poor people who have no property to use as collateral. But he discovered that poor borrowers would maintain a good loan repayment rate if interest rates were realistically set and if certain other conditions were applied.
All right. So let's start. Again, I'm going to tell any of you, both of you are going to explain everything. You can complement your partner's idea. This is also a good way of practicing like this. But again, this is just going to be for today. So let's start with you this time, Michaela. How can you summarize this information in your own words? All right, only the things that you understood, not yet the questions or the words that you didn't get. So what do you say? How can you summarize this information?
Well, I I remember that the video is about small scale entrepreneurs. In this part, they are talking about this company that provide to these to those small scale entrepreneurs an alternative for develop their business. Well, the video is talking about the characteristic for this alternative.
All right, good. Thank you, Michaela. What do you say, Karen? How can you summarize this information? You can complement or add a lot of ideas to that one.
Okay, teacher. The first part of the video, I don't understand. I understand the first part, but I understand that this professor discovered that traditional banks didn't lend money to poor people. I don't know it's correct to say or to describe the people that don't have money, but he also get the word. He also investigate about that borrow money to poor people. It's a good option because these people pay their costs in the time that I don't know the bank or the people that lends them the money give you, I don't know, time to pay or all their doubts.
Good. Their debts, you can say. Good. Great. Thank you, Karen. Great. So I'm going to do something now. I believe that you have interesting ideas, and Karen, yes, you developed something that is key here. That is the interpretation of how the professor, right, is explaining what traditional banks do. But he's doing something different because who is this person? Who can answer that? Who is Mohammed Yunus? How can you describe this person?
It's in economics. I don't know, it's professor or researcher.
Good. It's a professor. Good in economics. Professor. Hi, is a professor in economics. And what else? What else did he do? What is he the founder of? What did he create?
Maybe this part is in the first part of the not of the complete video, but in the first part that you put in this class. And this is the part that I didn't understand.
Okay, don't worry. Here, this is the answer. He is the founder of Grameen Bank. Okay, and remember that Grameen Bank is a bank that is an alternative for entrepreneurs, as Michaela was saying. Right? This is right. This is about small-scale entrepreneurs, people who want to initiate a business. They need money, so they need someone who can give them the money. They can work with informal money lenders, but that's not a good idea, right? The first part of the previous class, not a good idea, so you put that aside. Then you go to Grameen Bank. Grameen Bank can lend small amounts of money with reasonable interest rates. Okay, so Mohammed here is going to be the founder, but I'm going to read that. So let's listen one more time. Both of you are going to complement your ideas, and I'm going to explain some words. All right, I play a part and I repeat it. It's important that you can get the words over here.
Without the necessity of providing
Okay, that's the
collateral.
end of the part that we already covered, Karen and Michaela, okay, in the previous conversation. Now, this is the new part for today, and this is what we need to pay attention just now.
The idea has now spread throughout much of the world.
Okay, the idea has now spread throughout much of the world. It means the thing that Grameen Bank is doing is expanding around the world. Okay, it's simple because it's a good idea, and now everybody is doing this, not only in Bangladesh, but around the world. Okay, that's the first part.
And has been responsible for making significant inroads into both rural and urban poverty.
Okay, this, in other words, this interconnection between rural and urban poverty, it means that people, not only in cities, but around the cities, in the suburbs, in the rural areas, are accessing to this type of borrowing money. They are working with the Grameen Bank method, that is borrowing small amounts of money with reasonable interest rates. Okay, that's what, in other words, they are saying. There's a connection between rural areas and cities because of this method. Okay, but this is something extra. This is just extra comments. The main thing comes now.
Developing countries.
We're still talking about developing countries, right? For example, Bolivia is a developing country. India could be, it's more, but it's still a developing country, right? It means that they are still developing. They are not developed, they are developing.
The founder of the Grameen Bank.
The founder. So this person is the founder of the Grameen Bank.
An economics professor named Mohammed Yunus.
Economics professor, or you can say professor on economics.
Understood that because of the risk and expense involved.
Okay, now this is an important explanation. Because of the risk and the expense involved. The risk is because it's dangerous. The expense is because you need a lot of money if you want to work. And Karen, you were asking for that. You can say poor people, or you can only say the poor. Okay, poor people or the poor. It's okay. It's not that negative when you say that in English. All right, but because here they are talking about them.
Traditional banks would not lend money to poor people.
Right, so traditional banks would not lend money to poor people. Okay, but this is traditional banks. Grameen Bank is one bank, a different bank, an alternative, and traditional banks are other banks, traditional, right? The well-known banks that follow their own methods. So Mohammed says that traditional banks don't lend money to the poor. Why? Because it's risky and they can waste a lot of money. Okay, it's hard, but that's what he says.
Have no property to use as collateral.
And because of the poor, they don't have houses, they don't have cars, they don't have property to use as collateral. And banks need collateral, all right? At least traditional banks, they need collateral. So if you want to borrow money and you don't have a house, you don't have a car, you don't have property that you can give to the bank in case you don't pay, they are not going to give you the money. Okay, that's what they are explaining. That's the video about. Let's keep going.
But he discovered that poor borrowers would maintain a good loan repayment rate.
This is what you were saying, Karen, right? But Mohammed, he discovered that poor borrowers can keep a good loan repayment. It means that they are going to be able to return the money. But actually, he's not saying that they do that because of just because. There's a condition that this bank is giving. All right.
If interest rates were realistically
Okay,
set,
so if the interest rates are realistically set, it means you have to pay back in this date, and that's realistic, that's possible. That's when the poor are going to be able to repay the money without any problems.
and if certain other conditions were
Okay,
applied.
and if certain other conditions were applied, and that's what the next part of the video is going to be about. All right, so let's do it one more time, please. First, you're going to let me know if you have questions about the words that you listen to, but I would like you to explain this one more time. And in this case, I'm going to start with you, please, Karen. All right, so with all those details and repetitions, what else can you add to your explanation, Karen?
Okay, first, this professor on economics, Mohammed, found a bank that lends money to poor people with a reasonable interest. And
interest rates, those are going to be two words. Interest rates.
Interest rates. And he also understands that the traditional banks didn't lend money to poor people because poor people doesn't have I don't know, cars, house, and something that is of theirs that they can use like I forget the word, but use like something that you can put in favor and the bank if you don't pay the money the bank keep or things, maybe something like that. And also with this bank that this professor had, they discovered that for people with a realistic dates of paying or realistic interest rates, they can pay and maintain paying those
Debts, right? Debts. Exactly. Good. Let me write that word. Great. Great. I think that was very well explained. Karen, it's in the chat there. Debts. Good. Only one observation, right? You said people doesn't, but remember it's going to be people don't, right? And actually, in the explanation about banks and about people, you only can use present because it's a general description, right? And if it's a general description, instead of didn't, right, the traditional banks didn't lend money, only say don't, right? Traditional banks don't lend money to poor people because it's risky. It involves great amount of money over there, and because of the reasons that you said, right? They don't have properties. The word that you wanted to use is collateral.
Yes, collateral.
Collateral. It's very unique. I think, I don't know, perhaps Michaela knows that, but collateral is, again, right, the translation is also sometimes collateral. They also translate it as seguridad, but it's related to that property, that thing that you use as a guarantee, as something that backs you up, right, to say, okay, if I don't pay you back, then you can keep my property, right? Or something is going to happen to it. Okay, just that one, Karen. I'm going to go with Michaela now. If you're going to have any questions, you're going to let me know. All right, but let's listen to Michaela. Michaela, let's do the same, please. How can you explain everything one more time with all the information that I was providing, and as well, Karen? What do you say?
Okay. Sorry. Well, the video was talking about these people that sometimes they don't have the they don't have that they need to prove to the banks that they in this case is collaterals. I think it's like something that support that I going to pay. Um, and in Spanish maybe it's like garantía. So most of small scale entrepreneurs don't have collaterals. They cannot apply to to receive support for banks. Um, uh, well, they was looking for um, the effect that the effect that this situation ha, has in these people, and how can I help help them with the alternative, the green bank, and uh, well, I think this this is how can I summarize this part.
Okay, thank you very much, Michaela. Only a couple of questions, and then both of you can ask me questions. All right. So, Michaela, just one observation. Also, remember if you say they instead of was, you need to say where, right? They were. Just that. But if I ask you this one more time, who is this person, Michaela? Who is Mohammed Yunus?
Well, I understand that this person is like um, the person that is responsible for uh, all the work for the bank, the green bank, is like the uh, fun, I forgot the word in English, but it's like a fundador, maybe.
Correct, right? The founder. You can only say the founder. Founder. Good. He's the founder. He's a professor, right, in economics. Good. And it's going to be this bank, right? It is very good. So instead of green, it's going to be like Grameen. Okay, the Grameen Bank. And this is the alternative, and the founder is Mohammed Yunus, right? And yes, this bank is proposing an alternative to poor people because they don't have property to use it as collateral, as you were saying. I think that's the translation that you can use here, right, in Spanish, right? The garantía. They don't have the collateral to well, to borrow money from traditional banks. But Grameen Bank is not a traditional bank because it's lending money to people, giving them right reasonable interest rates, right? Remember those two words, interest rates, reasonable interest rates, and also realistic due dates. It means you have to pay the first part here, the second part here, and it's a good amount of time that they can use to repay the money, right? The loans also, right? If you want to talk about el préstamo, you can say the loan or the loans, right? So to return the loans, they give you realistic and interesting due dates and also other conditions that we're not playing now. We're going to play tomorrow, perhaps. Where I'm going to see we're going to continue with this one or a different one. You're going to tell me also, but realistic dates with other conditions that we're going to discuss later on, or you can take a look afterwards. All right. Now, I want to know if you have any questions. In the meantime, I'm going to show you some words. Here, as you can see, right? Poor people, the poor, Borrow, right? Remember that action. Poverty, small amounts. Give me 1 second, my mouse froze. Okay, so as I'm showing you these words, you can ask me questions. This is reasonable interest rates, right? Remember those two words, interest rates. Collateral is the property that you can give if in case you don't pay what you have to pay, right? Then developing countries, right? Not developed countries, developing countries. This is the word that you were saying, Michaela, founder, okay? The founder of the Grameen Bank, right? An economics professor, Mohammed Yunus. Traditional banks lend money, right? To give money to poor people who have no property to use as a collateral, right? Then good long repayment. This is the word that I showed you, right? What is long repayment? How you return the money little by little, right? How you have to return the money to the bank that you borrow it. Realistically set and other conditions apply. Okay, so those are some words that I'm showing you. So let me know, please, if you have any questions or comments to finish now. Tomorrow, again, if you want, we're going to continue with the next part of this video, or also we can work with a different one. But remember, you're going to join at the same time. In your case, it will be Michaela at 7:45, and I'm also going to finish before with your partner because I extended time, and with you 10 o'clock. So, do you have any questions about these words? Let me know, please.
No, teacher, but
It's
I
okay,
have a
teacher,
question.
because
Sorry.
Yes, tell me. Let's start with you, Karen. What question do you have?
It's a question of some video that I saw last week, maybe. I
Mhm.
don't remember, but when you want to say, it's okay if you say, could you take me on a picture?
Take me on a what? The last part one
A
more time,
picture or
please.
a photo?
No, take me, no. It's better if you say, could you take a photo of me? All right. Or could you take a photo for me? And again, of course, the photo is going to be there for you. But if you say, could you take me a picture? It's not going to be correct. Okay. Could you take a photo or a picture of me?
But when we use take me on, it's wrong.
Take me on is understood as a different phrasal verb. You say, for example, there's a song, right? Take me on. For example, you say, take me to that place is like you have to use a car or you have to join me to that place. Okay, to take you on something. For example, if I take you on a trip, it means that you're going to go on a trip with me. Okay, if I take you somewhere, it means that I'm going to bring you with me to a different place. All right, that's going to be to take someone on or to take someone to. But again, the best option is to take a picture of you over there or to take the picture for you. And of course, you clarify that it has to take the picture, all right, aiming to you. But those are going to be, I think, the best options there, Karen, because to take someone on again, it's going to be a little bit different.
Okay, teacher, thank you.
All right, good. No, you're welcome. And what about you, Michaela? I think you also had a question or a doubt.
Um, the video was clear to me because of the context. Only, sorry for the sorry, and thank you, Karen, for letting me stay with you in the call. I have a call from my boss, so I was maybe a bit. I am not sure of the word in English, but distraída because of that. So sorry and thank you.
Don't worry, Michaela. No, thanks for being kind. All right. Yeah, it happens. Yes, you can say I was a little bit distracted, right, or distractful, you can say. But don't worry. I think you worked good. Tomorrow, then we're going to continue working with both of you in your own schedules. All right. And again, this happens. And yes, Karen, thanks for letting us work, the three of us. All right. Have a good night then. Remember, please, the link. Oh, sorry, the survey is down below. Please answer to those questions and let me know when you do it. All right. After you do it, you can leave. Thanks for being here. Have a good night and see you tomorrow for the next part.
Okay, teacher, thank you. Have a good night too. Have a good night, Michaela. Bye, teacher.
Bye bye. Good night, girls.
Thank you. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Bye bye. See you.